2017 has been forecast to be a weak year for the global economy, but as the new year begins, it's natural for many to have career growth on their minds.
Yeah, so is it the right time to look for a change in your job? And what core skills are employers here in Asia looking out for? Here to discuss these questions and a lot more are Grant Torrens. He's Business Director of Hayes Singapore. And along with him is Wong Su-Yen, CEO of the Human Capital Leadership Institute. Good morning.
Morning.
Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year.
Okay, so weak economic climate, we're hearing reports of this, but the U.S. is saying that the job market this year is going to be at an 8-year high, and it's a good time to switch jobs. Your thoughts first, Grant.
Yeah, I mean, what you have to remember is Singapore is a very different market, different country to the US, obviously. And what happens in the US certainly isn't the case around the world, and in particular Singapore. No doubt Singapore is facing a tough economy this year. I think we're expecting the fourth quarter GDP to come out in the next 10 minutes, and that's likely to show that Singapore grew by about 1%. So it's going to be a tough economy for Singapore. And I think the main thing is the sentiment that is attached to the economy at the moment. Because, I mean, after all, growth is growth, but the sentiment seems to be a lot tougher here than what it is in the US.
How about in other parts of Asia? Su-Yen, what do you think?
Well, I think I'd say two things. One is that Asia still comprises about 40% of world GDP and is expected to contribute about 2/3 of global growth. So with that as context, you would certainly expect continued growth in the region. Having said that, strong, heavy export-oriented economies will obviously be affected by rising tides of, protectionism around the world.
Mm-hmm. So for people who are thinking it's a new year, I want a new start or a change, what are they going to be prepared for? What should they prepare for when they're out looking for a new job?
I mean, there's a number of factors that come into play when we're in an economy like this. I mean, the first thing is that employers out there are going to have a strong focus on costs in 2017. So any candidate who is looking for a job is going to have to be able to explain to a potential employer what experience they have in implementing cost-saving initiatives. The other thing that they're going to have to expect, which can be quite frustrating, is that the interview process is going to take a lot longer. I mean, employers are going to have to make sure that they get the hire right. The cost to hiring the wrong person is incredibly expensive, and as a result of that, employers are going to have 4, 5, 6 rounds of interviews where I guess previously they've had 2 or 3.
So what can people do to stand out from the crowd?
Well, I would say leaders in particular need to be focusing on 2 things. One is the ability to be adaptable, to navigate complexity and the ambiguous environment that they're in. And second, increasingly employers are looking for candidates or individuals who are able to work beyond their home countries, whether it's Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, China. They're really looking for people who can take their businesses beyond their domestic borders.
And what about social media? I mean, it's a part of our personal lives, but also professionally. Do you think there's a way that you can stand out with that aspect?
Of course, I think digital is going to be a huge aspect in 2017, as it was in 2016. Not much change there. Anything technological related is going to be huge in 2017. So certainly candidates can stand out from the crowd if they go ahead and advance themselves in terms of social media skills. The government, the Singapore government, obviously has their Skills Future program, and certain elements of that do focus on digital skills. So I would suggest that candidates do take a look at that website.
Oh, Grant, let's look at... Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, in terms of social media, sorry, one more question
no
here. Do you think we should be cultivating actively our social media profiles? I'm thinking LinkedIn, but also Twitter. Should we have separate accounts for our personal and professional use? Just a few tips around that.
I think there are lots of perspectives on that.
Yeah.
What I do see is that increasingly employers do look at your social media footprint, and just as much the same way, individuals also look at what companies are doing actively on social media as well. So I think it does work both ways, and it's very important for both companies as well as individuals to be maintaining their presence online.
Grant, I'm keen to find out about this idea of intrapreneurship. Can you tell us more about this?
Sure. Intrapreneurship is, I guess, similar to entrepreneurship. However, it's focused on those people that can bring the ideas of entrepreneurialism into a corporate working environment. So they can bring ideas of innovation into an environment that may be more tightly controlled through regulation and company rules and company policies that they otherwise wouldn't have to deal with if they were setting up their own company. So I think in terms of going into 2017, companies are going to expect the economy to change. And as the economy changes, their company is going to change. So they're going to want to be hiring people that can exhibit the ideas of entrepreneurship so that these people can change while the economy changes along with it.
What companies are at risk of having a tough time in 2017?
There are a number of companies that fall into certain sectors, I think, that are going to have a tough time. Clearly, any company that is focused or has an attachment to trade, international trade, particularly as we see what's going on in the US at the moment, as well as in Europe. Any company that is trade-related is probably going to be in for a tough ride in 2017. And I think also the oil and gas sector, as a follow-on from that, is going to be tough. Banking and financial services, particularly in Singapore, which has usually been a stronghold, a real pillar for the economy, certainly for the next 6 months at least, is probably going to be in for a tough ride as well.
Su-Yen, on the flip side, are there industries you see as being relatively stable or more guaranteed in terms of increasing headcounts?
You know, I actually think that there are opportunities in every sector. And it's really incumbent on individuals to be looking for the companies that are innovative so that they're the ones that will be disrupting as opposed to being disrupted. So I would say that it's important for individuals to be looking out for those characteristics in so much as the way companies are really looking for individuals who can be flexible and navigate the changing business environment as well.
I'm keen to find out your thoughts on what happened just a week ago, I think on Christmas Day or just on the eve of Christmas. About that Dentsu employee who committed suicide because this person was working extremely long hours, about 100 hours of overtime a month. You know, when that situation arises, what should employees do? You know, who can they go and seek some redress from?
I think the first thing to ascertain is, does your management expect you to do this, or is it pressure that you're putting on yourself? You'll be surprised to see how many people stay back and work incredibly long hours because of the pressure that they put on themselves. Most times their management team is not even aware that they're still there. So the first thing is to address that. If it is the expectation from your management, the first thing I would suggest you do is look internally in your company, find out the procedures or the policies that are available to you to make complaints. Maybe it's to HR, maybe it's to a higher senior management team. Of course, if that doesn't go anywhere, then there's other recourses for you as well, which include external advice given to you.
Su-Yen, would you like to add on to that?
I think there's a lot more focus being placed increasingly on work-life balance because as we live longer and we have longer careers, this notion of being able to pace oneself becomes really critical. So I think it's important for individuals to have a very strong sense of how they manage their lives as well, so that they have a nice sort of center of emphasis. And increasingly, the companies that will be able to attract the best candidates will also be those that understand how to optimize business performance while enabling work-life balance.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
We've been speaking with Grant Torrens, Business Director of Hays Singapore, and Wong Su-Yen, CEO of the Human Capital Leadership Institute.